When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your... When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence. Whether you use handicapping insights, like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
We're back with the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with Darin Zoccali, and Nick Tammaro is filling in for James Scully all week long. He is in his car right now outside a coffee shop, but don't worry, he is in park. Right, Nick?
I am in park, I promise. Look, here in my hands, I'm holding my computer up. But I don't have the fancy backdrop that you do, but mine is unique.
It looks very nice for what you're working with. And Nick will be doing expert picks at Del Mar this week, so he'll talk his best bets and fades at Del Mar. We'll also look at Hambletonian, which is going to be Darin's expertise, and we'll talk Ellis Park for Kentucky Downs Preview Weekend, where I will be on location this weekend with our producer Blaze, Abby Huffman, our social media coordinator, and a couple others from Louisville as well. So very excited for that, and happy August as well. July just slipped away in a moment of time. So let's jump right into our best bets of the week. And Nick, I'll start with you. What is your best bet this week?
Yeah, so looking forward to another good weekend out west. The racing at Del Mar has been really strong so far, and my handicapping performance has definitely not matched that strength, but I'm going to attribute it to the tough races left and right. But race 9 on Saturday is the California Dreamin', and a horse that I've kind of had a thing for a while is the A Carmelita's Man. One of the problems that you run into, obviously, being a deep closer, whether it's long on dirt, short on turf, or vice versa, is you need pace. And Carmelita's Man has had a series of negative setups, been faced, at least most recently, faced Open Company. I think this is a significant class drop, even going into a stake race, because he's facing Calbreds. And so I'm hoping that things finally break Carmelita's Man's way. It's been a good run the last few years for trainer Dean Peterson and jockey Tiago Pereira. Just hoping for a clean trip and a little bit of pace in front of him. I know at Del Mar, you do have to negotiate the somewhat tight turns and short stretch in order to uncoil that late rally, but I'm hopeful that he's able to do it here. And I think we're going to get a pretty decent price. I wouldn't give out a horse that wasn't offering at least a little bit of value as a best bet. So Carmelita's Man for me in the 9th race on Saturday.
Certainly likes this track, 4 for 8, and then has 2 second place finishes as well. But Darin, I think you have a different take on this race.
Yeah, we're going head to head, which makes for a good jury episode. I like Catalina Eddy in the same race. I'm a little bit of a sucker for horses that are stretching out, like this one is, coming off of 3 consecutive turf sprints, including a couple going 6.5 at Santa Anita. The horse has performed respectably well, including a win around 2 turns in the past. He has a bit more early speed than Nick's selection in here. You get Juan Hernandez aboard for Craig Lewis, who's putting the blinkers on, which I think is an interesting move. So I think he's definitely going to be forward in this spot, which is certainly an advantageous position over this particular turf course. And similar to Nick's horse, he is also dropping out of a tough open level allowance back down against State Bred Company, albeit in stakes competition. He's got a couple of decent tries at the State Bred level, including a win going the mile at Santa Anita against entry-level allowance Calbred Company. So I do think he fits quite well in this spot. I like the post draw for him. He's inside the other speed. I think he could work out a very good stalking trip here behind a couple of the others that are stretching out. It might be a little bit quicker than him early, but I think he gets first run here, and I think he's a viable player moving out of that open allowance spot.
I don't have an opinion on this race. I thought it was a tough one, but certainly you have a good rider aboard Catalina Eddy with the Juan Hernandez at Del Mar. So I'm not going to make a pick in this one. I'm going to let you all debate that one. But I'll take it over to Ellis Park on Sunday, and I'm going with number 3, Regal Realm at 5-1 in race 8. This is the Ladies Turf Mile Stakes preview, and it's a 1-mile turf stakes for fillies and mares. And this is an Animal Kingdom mare that was last seen racing a mile and a 16th in the Indiana General Assembly handicap and was beaten to 5th by just half a length. But coming off a very long layoff in that start, Her previous start before that was in November, and she had a short lead in the stretch, but was overtaken. And that was in a 1.16 stakes as well. But she's cutting back to a mile, and this is kind of the distance she's comfortable with. And her last start before that in September, 3 starts back, she won the Grade 3 Ladies Turf at Kentucky Downs, and this race at Ellis is going to be a prep for that. So I like seeing that she was able to win that Grade 3 at Kentucky Downs as well. She also has Florent Giroux aboard, who's a 30% winner at Ellis, and her trainer is a 29% winner in non-graded stakes. So I like the trainer jockey stats as well. And I also have an exacta play here. A long shot, number 9, Bolivi at 12-1, was third by a neck in that Indiana General Assembly, set the early pace before getting out finished in the stretch, but normally is a late runner. There's a lot of early speed in this race, so I think maybe we'll see Bolivi change tactics, and I'll do this in exacta with the 5-1 and the 12-1 in the Sunday race 8 at Ellis.
Always admire you when you pick some of these big bloated turf fields to have your best bet. I thought this race was nearly impossible, so I'll just tip my cap to you and wish you well.
Thank you. I did think that Walkathon was vulnerable in this spot on the outside. What did you think about Walkathon? 3-1 morning line favorite.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure how the betting is going to go in this race either. It's a very complicated field, 14 across here. Yeah, I took a look at it and said this is going to take a lot more work, and just kind of flipped to the next page. But I like your horse. I like Regal Rum. I've known her for quite a while. And I certainly think she's going to be prepping for a spot that they think she could certainly win. Because that Kentucky Downs course, some horses absolutely love it. Some horses hate it. We know she loves it. So I'm sure they're going to look for a big effort from her in this spot.
Let's look at the horses we're fading out of short price. So, Darin, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to go to Ellis, but on Saturday, part of the Kentucky Downs Preview Weekend in the Mint Millions Turf. I'm going to fade Win for the Money, who's coming out of the Grade 2 Wise Dan. I understand that this horse faced substantially better last time. That's Ottoman Fleet on the front end, who would be 1-9 against this group. And I definitely respect that fact. But I do think that this race came up somewhat interesting. I think there are some developing horses that are coming out of Allowance Company that might be able to turn the tables, or at least be able to get to the favorite in this spot. There's speed, a little bit of speed signed on towards the inside. Miranda Rights, I think, is a very interesting horse for Mark Cassie, who seems to have his arrow pointed upward. And I respect what Cassie's barn has been doing for the last month. And I always like him when he moves horses into a stake for the first time like this. Highway Robber, I think, is a really talented horse that when he gets the right setup, he's extremely dangerous. And I do admit that he's going to need a setup here with his late running style. But I just think that the odds here for Win for the Money, he might be every bit of 4-5 or even money at post time. Can he win the race? Of course he can. He's just a favorite that I think I could take a little bit of a shot against in this card.
I'm with you. I really like Highway Robber as well for Brian Lynch. And there's a few others. I even thought Fuerteventura could be interesting first start for Randy Morse. So a lot of different runners in there. Another difficult race at Ellis this weekend. But Nick, what about you? What's your fade for the weekend?
Yeah, my fade is in race 5 at Del Mar on Saturday, the 2 Johnny Podres. Not sure of the morning line just yet as they drew yesterday, but I thought this was a horse that you wanted to take a swing against. I envision he'll be the favorite, and his running style is really not conducive to the 5/8 on grass, so I'm not overwhelmingly confident that he can get there in time. So Johnny Podres, one that I would be looking for an alternative against, coming out of some tough races undoubtedly in stakes competition, but I think he's a horse worth taking a swing against as the favorite.
Yeah, he's been racing longer and coming off a 2-month layoff. I see a chance to beat him too. I'm going to go back to Ellis again for Sunday.
Exactly, yeah. I think he's going to need longer for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to take it back to Ellis for Sunday. I think we keep losing Nick. He'll be back, though. I'm confident he'll be back. And I'm going to fade number 6, Legendary Lore, at 3-1. This is a 1-mile claimer for 3-year-olds and a 5-year-old gelding back in the barn of Steve Asmussen. He was in his barn previously and got 1 win from 7 starts, and that was a pretty long time ago. He was last in the barn of Troy Newton and was in a 6-furlong claimer at Churchill last out, and then was 4th by more than 5 lengths. He's now going to be racing at a mile, and he's 0 for 10 from that distance. So that's concerning to see him racing at a mile here. And the pace setup It's not exactly ideal for him. He's a late runner, and there's really a lot of late runners in this field. So I'm going to fade this horse. I mean, I don't have a good feeling on another particular runner. I just don't see Legendary Lord doing it at a mile, looking at how he's run his previous starts.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. Distance specialist being 0 for 10, and plus Ellis Park, that mile is kind of that quirky shoot off the turn as well, which adds a little bit of intrigue to it.
Before we talk about what we're going to look out for this weekend, Darin, tell us about some promos and, of course, our TwinSpires tournaments.
Yeah, really excited that we were able to launch TwinSpires tournaments yesterday with our first tournament at Presque Isle Downs. 137 people participated in it. This Saturday coming up, we have our first NHC qualifier, $750. We're guaranteeing 2 seats, regardless of how many people are in the contest. We're going to guarantee 2 seats, and then the more people sign up, the more potential seats could be won, and also the cash prizes will grow as well. The cool thing about this one also, in addition to the guaranteed 2 seats, is the way that the buy-in is split. $500 to your bankroll, $250 to the prize pool. So we're giving 75% almost to the players to be able to go back and bet with, which is something the players told us that they like. They like the bigger bankroll. They like having a little bit more flexibility and not to see so much of their buy-in go to the prize pool. So really excited to have our first NHC qualifier coming up on Saturday as we guarantee 2 seats there. And this one is eligible for NHC Tour points because we are guaranteeing those 2 seats. So even if you don't win, you can earn NHC points and kind of climb those NHC Tour standings to help get you to the NHC coming up next February. In addition to that, we have our selected races money back. And to say that we've lit a fire under this week would be a little bit of an understatement. Look, no question, obviously, there's an elephant in the room with some content that we're not currently able to offer. And we understand that dramatically impacts our players right now. So we are going to give back as much as we possibly can this weekend. And we've got about 30 races between Thursday and Sunday in the summer selected money back. That includes a series of races right up Nick's alley at Del Mar, including full card Saturday Del Mar money back offer. We have races Friday, I think 5 of them at Del Mar on Friday as well. We have a handful of races from Ellis for preview day on Sunday and a handful of races for Del Mar on Sunday as well. But Del Mar is going to be featured here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the full card of Del Mar offered in the summer selected money back for their Saturday program. And then Ellis, which has the NHC tournament featuring their card on Saturday, we have a much lesser scale for some of those players that don't want to take too big of a swing. We'll give you a $2,500 Sunday leaderboard to attack for that great card with the Kentucky Downs preview on Sunday as well at Ellis Park. So no shortage of offers. We've spiced up the money back as well. Ashley, a lot to look forward to this weekend at TwinSpires.
Sounds good. And Nick, I think you have another race on your radar with Del Mar. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking out for this weekend.
Yeah, the Clement Hirsch coming up on Saturday is a race I wanted to talk a little bit about, with Scylla going out west, having just won the Fleur-de-Lis. That race has not come back all that productive so far. We saw a Colt lose an allowance race at Saratoga last week. We also saw Shotgun Hottie come back and underwhelm a little. Chuvy behind Raging Sea. So I'm not totally convinced of the quality of that Fleur-de-Lis, but I do think Scylla did the majority of the running. She had a wide trip. It was a slow pace. She overcame it. I think it's really interesting to see Bill Mott send her out there. Of course, to see Pretty Mischievous out west as well for trainer Brendan Walsh. I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that down the line. But Scylla and Pretty Mischievous are both going to have their hands full with Adair Manor, no doubt about it. She is the unofficial queen of this division. It's just been surprising that she's missed a couple of objectives along the way. I felt like would have been in a grade 1 a little bit earlier in the year, with both the La Troyenne and the Phipps having been run on the eastern side of the United States. And perhaps trainer Bob Baffert just doesn't plan on shipping her at all, as she can stay in Southern California all the way through the end of the year. So you don't often see a lot of East Coast shippers come over for a race like this. It's great to see Scylla and Pretty Mischievous in there. And I think we're going to get a line on whether both of them are really competitive in a spot like this, because Scylla has shown grade 1 caliber ability, and Pretty Mischievous is trying to refine it, quite honestly, after a couple of relatively dull starts to begin 2024.
And our Del Mar correspondent, Andrew Brown, he caught up with Brendan Walsh and talked Pretty Mischievous ahead of this race. So let's hear what he had to say.
Brendan, Pretty Mischievous has been here for a few days now. It's going to be her first run on the track. How's she settled in and how's she moving over the surface?
Settled in great, Andrew. Looks like she's moving really good and really travelled well this time. You know, we were a little concerned last year she didn't travel great to Santa Anita, but I think it was the end of a long year and it took its toll on her when she got out here. We ended up scratching, but she's travelled good here now and full of energy, and we couldn't be happier with her.
That's awesome. She's still looking for her first win in 2024 after a phenomenal 2023, but back-to-back thirds you'd take a lot of encouragement from. Third off the layoff now, fitness-wise, have you got her exactly where you want her to be heading into Saturday?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think we'll have too much excuses after Saturday, whether it goes right or goes wrong. So, you know, it looks like there should be plenty of pace in the race too, which I think is going to be key. So yeah, it all sets up good for her.
You must still carry plenty of fond memories from that first Friday in May of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was fantastic. It was like a whole different thing to anything else. You know, so you know, it was just unbelievable. So hopefully we can go back and do it again another time or two.
Yeah, and what's it like having a filly of this quality in your barn?
Well, it's what every trainer dreams about. You know, it's what we're all here for, is to have one as good as her. I mean, she just had a knockdown year last year, and she was just fantastic. So, yeah. But I don't think we've seen the end of her yet. You know, I think there's still some more to come. So hopefully, between now and here, maybe next November, we can have a few more good days.
Nice. So Umberto Rispoli rides. He's been in great form. What instructions will you give him?
I don't think we'll get in her way too much. You know, like I said, there should be plenty of pace in there, and she likes to be right up there or just off of it. So, you know, we won't get in her way too much. She's drawn outside, which will give her a nice outlook on the race from the start. And you know, Umberto's riding very well here. He's been lucky for us. He's ridden a Grade 1 winner for me actually in California, and we've had a few good days. So we're delighted to have him on board.
Yep, good addition, I think, and good luck to you and the rest of the team on Saturday, and hopefully we'll see you back here for the first Saturday in November.
Yes, please God. Yeah.
All the very best. Thanks, Brendan.
All right, you heard it right there. And speaking of fillies and mares, I have a horse to watch as well. It's Overcharged, kind of a fan favorite here at TwinSpires, and Overcharged is a Louisiana bred going for her 8th straight win at Ellis Park this Saturday in the Kentucky Downs Preview Mint Ladies Turf Sprint Stakes. It's a mouthful. And she is a very versatile sprinter. She has wins on the turf and the dirt, has a 7-win streak and 6 for 6 this season, hasn't lost since transferring to the barn of Shane Wilson. She's 5 for 5 from the distance of 5.5 furlongs on the turf. And she just got her first graded stakes win in the Unbridled Sydney on the Kentucky Oaks undercard as well at Churchill Downs on May 3rd. But I will say she has some tough competition in this particular race. We have Nikki Ninedoors just won the P Patch at Ellis Park on July 6th. And then LJ's Emma is a late runner who I think could have a chance here because there's a lot of speed signed on for this race. And then Red Carpet Ready, the 2-1 second choice on the morning line, trying turf for the first time, but has 3 graded stakes wins on the main track. So we'll see what she does on the grass for the first time. But we will also be talking to Overcharged connections when we're at Ellis Park this weekend. Abby Huffman will be catching up with Connor Wilson. So definitely check that out on our social channels. And we're very excited to see if Overcharged gets her 8th straight victory.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting next to you Derby weekend, and I think both of us were shocked that she actually won the Unbridled Sydney, because at no point of that race did we think she was winning. And I think she didn't like that yielding turf course, and she got it done anyway. But she's certainly been spectacular. Always fun to watch her run.
Yeah, she won by a neck, but she had been just absolutely dominating those other stakes races. So might be a narrow margin here too. I'm excited to see what happens. But Darin, close us out with some harness racing.
Yeah, it's the first Saturday in August, which means it is the harness racing version of the Kentucky Derby. I'm looking forward to going out, taking my son on Saturday, just like my dad used to take me, to go watch the Hambletonian, $1 million event for the 3-year-old trotters. This is a fascinating race this year. Carl has been a superstar. He's won 14 of 16 lifetime starts. The interesting thing with him is twofold. One, he drew the inside starting slot, which on the surface people think is a good thing in harness racing. But he's a little bit quirky off the gate. And that means Yannick Gingras is going to have to be a little bit careful from that inside spot, which could make him a little bit temperamental. And it makes the dynamics of the race fascinating, how aggressive he is getting out of there, when he decides to move Carl to the front, and what his rival TCI does when he certainly blasts off the gate. Does he let security protected and private access the other speeds really go at it and take back and then try to make a move before Carl? Or does he just decide he's going to the front and he's going to hit the gas and play catch me if you can and see what happens from there? So the dynamics of the pace of the race are really fascinating. And the other great storyline here is his driver, Yannick Gingras, who somehow has never won the Hambletonian. He's won everything else you can think of. And this is like one of those jockeys like a Javier Castellano going into the Derby where you say, how has he never won a Derby? How has Gingras not won a Hambletonian? He's driven the favorite 4 or 5 times. He drove Father Patrick, who was one of the best trotters that we've ever seen coming into the Hambletonian, and he made a break from post 10. He's been second numerous times, including driving the 2-year-old champ Southwind Frank to a nose defeat several years ago. He's had excruciatingly tough losses in this race. And this was the year that it looked like it was finally his year. And then Carl was upset a couple of starts back in the Stanley Dancer Memorial in his final tune-up for the Hambletonian elimination. He won the Hambo Elim, but not saying there's chinks in the armor, but I don't think we're as confident in Carl as we were maybe about a month ago. So dramatic storyline. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens on Saturday at the Meadowlands. A spectacular day of racing, guys. 16 races starting at 12 noon, and we have an offer, even 15% trifecta boost on harness racing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, including the Hambletonian Day card. I always get pumped up for this. It's in my backyard. It's the track I grew up at, and I'm looking forward to being there, guys.
How close is it to the Giants and Jets Stadium?
Oh, it's like across the parking lot.
Okay.
It's literally like the backstretch is literally the parking lot for MetLife Stadium. So
Okay.
it's a big sports complex. It's right there.
Yeah, I haven't made it to East Rutherford yet, but it's definitely on the list. I mean, I have been to New York and have lived in New York, but never made it over there. So
It's a really cool facility. They have an awesome rooftop that is kind of like they put a DJ there, and you can watch the races from the rooftop. Great sight lines. They have a paddock area with like a play area for the kids and a barbecue spot that they cook at and everything. I mean, it's just a cool track to be at.
well, I hope you enjoy it. And Nick, enjoy Del Mar Expert Picks. I hope you can cool off now that you've been in the car this whole time. I'm sorry for the conditions. I'll just leave it at that. It's been rough. It's been rough for Nick in that car. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us for the TwinSpires jury. Head to twinspires.com or the app to sign up for our tournaments and, of course, our promos as well. And we'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades.
Love you, Nick.
Yeah, I couldn't hear like 90% of that.